Accounting for depreciation. Accounting for depreciation. Okay. Accounting for depreciation, how will you account the depreciation in your books? அப்படின்னு சொன்னா method 1, where you are going to directly adjust in the asset account. Directly adjust in asset account. Okay. Asset account adjust பண்றதா இருந்தால் asset நீங்க டெபிட் பண்ணுவீங்க. asset வாங்கும்போது asset account டெபிட் பண்ணுவீங்க. அதுக்கு அப்புறம் அந்த asset நீங்க வந்து யூஸ் பண்ணும்போது அதோட வேல்யூ ரிடக்ஷன் வந்து நீங்க என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க, assetல ரெடியூஸ் பண்ணுவீங்க. யூஸ் பண்ண அந்த assets ஓட வேல்யூ குறையுது, அதனால ரெடியூஸ் பண்ணிக்கிறீங்க. Isn't it? Depreciation to asset. Or there is one more thing. Asset வாங்கும்போது நார்மல் asset to bank, ஆனா depreciate பண்ணும்போது assetல adjust பண்ண மாட்டீங்க. Adjusted through provision for depreciation account. Provision for depreciation account. Provision for depreciation account. Is that okay? Up, while depreciating, you are going to debit depreciation and credit to the provision for depreciation account. Asset pay credit பண்ண மாட்டீங்க, provision for depreciation account நீங்க credit பண்ணுவீங்க. That's the process. Red model. Sometimes later you may sell the asset, right? If in the asset, sometimes later you plan to sell. Okay. அப்படி சேல் பண்ணும்போது எப்படி சேல் பண்ணுவீங்க? So we can sell directly. அதாவது சேல்ஸ் அமௌண்ட் டைரக்டா அசெட்ஸ் அக்கவுண்ட்ல நம்ம டெபிட் பண்ணிடுவோம். ஓகே. Model 1. Okay. Directly adjust in. Or directly close asset data close பண்ணிடுவீங்க. Of course, rather than this way, we have one more route, which is nothing but routed through asset disposal account. Okay, through asset disposal account. Okay, the same process may come. In this case also. Okay, clear? You have to understand this clearly. So let me now solve an illustration under the first model, first subdivision. In the model solve பண்ணி காமிக்கிறேன். Okay, so you have to be master with this item, அதாவது how to handle in case of accounting that in our books. Original value of the assets being 65,000, scrap value being 5,000 rupees, and life of the asset being 4, method of depreciation being SLM, right? And note asset sold for rupees 10,000 at the end of third year end. At the end of third year it is sold. Clear? Now let me see here calculation of amount of depreciation. Amount of depreciation at SLM method is equal to original value minus scrap value divided by life in years. Original value being 65,000, scrap value being 5,000, life being 4 years. So amount of depreciation here being 15,000 per annum. Even you can calculate the rate of depreciation also, where amount of depreciation divided by original value in percentage. 15,000 is the rate of means the amount of depreciation divided by original value being 65,000. The value in percentage being how much? 23.08. Right. Now accounting. Passing the journal entry. Okay. Passing the journal entry. See, under the first model, accounting for depreciation varumbodhu asset vaangumbodhu enna entry varum? Okay, you are purchasing the asset, no? So for that the entry being asset account debit year 1 la idella nadakudhu. So year 1 at the 0th period you are purchasing the asset, so asset account debit to bank. The value of asset being 65,000. The value of the asset being 65,000. Okay. By the first year end, we are going to depreciate the asset. Depreciation entry. Asset value reduce agapodhu, so you are going to reduce the assets value by crediting the asset account. Directly adjusted. Okay. So depreciation account debit to asset account. The value of depreciation the very first year 15, as it is being SLM. Year after year the amount of depreciation being the same 15,000. So 15,000. The later the depreciation is expenses, right? Hereafter not required to carry over the next year. So the P&L account we transfer pannirnom. So it should be debited to the P&L account. P&L account debit to depreciation. The value being 15,000. So the life being 4, so you have to repeat this for 4 years. Any of third year la vithirom, adanal third year varaikku idhe nama repeat pannalam. Second year la end la enna varum? Again the same. Third year end la again the same. There is no any complications. Year on year you are going to repeat the same journal entry. This is for the second year, this is for the third year. Okay. In case of WDV method of irundal, the amount of depreciation will be different, but the formula is the same. The journal entry will be the same. But the third year end, we sold the asset. Immediate and the asset within the third year end. We can both enna panna porom. Again, we sell directly. Okay. Adhaadu assets account veliye poidudhu, asset credit pandrom. That's the logic. In the third year end, while selling the asset, the journal entry being we get the money, right? So by the time bank account debit, bank account debit, bank account debit to asset account. How much I am getting? The asset is sold for 10,000. I get 10,000 rupees. What is the value of the asset as per our books? Book line value in the asset. What is the value of the asset as per the books? We started with 65. Year on year, you have depreciated 15,000 rupees. As such, now 3 years over, 15,000, 45,000 were depreciated. From 65, 45,000 is depreciated, means today it's only 20,000. But while selling, we got only 10,000. Book value loss. So you can directly debit the loss. Loss on sale of asset debit. 10,000. This is what about the accounting of depreciation. So what did I follow here is direct adjustment in asset account while depreciating, and while selling is also directly adjusted. So this is the format I have followed. Is that clear? Now we better prepare the ledger also. We better prepare the ledger. என்னென்ன ledger account நமக்கு தேவைப்படும் சொன்னால் asset account, depreciation account. Bank account தேவையில்லை, ஒரே ஒரு முறை தான் போடுறோம், அதனால bank account தேவையில்லை. தேவைப்பட்ட P&L account extract ஒரு சின்ன ஃபார்மேட், ஒரு P&L ஒரு ஐட்டம் மட்டும் எப்படி appear ஆகுதுன்னு காமிக்கிறதுக்கு extract, not complete P&L account. So predominantly you may be asked to prepare asset account, nominal account, depreciation being the nominal account, yeah. And the year close ஆகும்போது the close item it will be nil balance. Okay, year close ஆகும்போது nil balance. அப்படினா depreciation create பண்ணீங்க, அந்த depreciation P&L க்கு transfer பண்ணீங்க, depreciation will be 0. Right. Let's try now. So what are the account I am going to open? Asset account. Very first year we purchased, right? So two bank. This value being 65,000. By closing the first year, we reduced the assets value by 15 due to the usage named as depreciation. இதில் வரும்போது by depreciation for the first year, by depreciation. The value being 15,000. First year over வருஷமும் account close பண்ணிட்டே வரணும். Asset being the real account, it will have the balance carried over for the next year. 65,000. Okay. 50,000 being the balance here. Balance carried on. Transfer to the next by balance brought down. This value being 50,000. Is that okay? இப்போ நம்ம செகண்ட் இயர் போகிறோம். அசெட் அக்கவுண்ட் மட்டும் முத போட்டு முடிக்கிறேன். Okay, to balance. Okay. So second year na carry பண்ணும்போது again assets, for that value reduction is there, depreciation, by depreciation. The value being 15,000. If I close this, 35,000 will be the balance. Okay. 35,000 is the balance. Balance carried on. And then the third year, again two balance brought on. Two balance brought on. The value being 35,000. In the third year also it is depreciated. So by depreciation for the third year, the value being 15,000. If you tally this, but of course by the end of third year the asset is sold off. So sales kind of transaction in asset with. This record பண்ணும்போது opposite side இருக்கிற buy bank we sold it for 10,000. So 35 minus 15. Today it's worth to be 20 but sold only for 10, less than the book value. Whenever we sell at the lesser value, it may be loss, otherwise gain. Otherwise it's a gain, but here it's a loss. Loss on sale of asset 10,000. Hereafter we don't have any assets, so the asset account becomes nil now. 35,000. Then after this, it is better prepared for depreciation also. Depreciation is a nominal account. Adala year end la depreciation will have no balance. Okay, balance sheet la appear aagadu. In the very first year, depreciation to asset, right? So two asset nu potukren, the value reduction of the assets due to usage, value being 15,000. By what happens? The same year that depreciation is transferred to the P&L account. So by P&L account, very good, 15. If you tally, then the depreciation will have no balance. It will balance it. Asset on the balance in a real account will have subsequent years usage. All the nominal accounts are closed and the balance is transferred to the trading and P&L accounts of close. Second year also the same you are repeating. Two asset 15 by P&L account 15. It gets closed. The last year again we repeat the same way. Two asset account by P&L account 15,000. Can we prepare the P&L account, sir? Of course, நீங்க P&L account போட்டீங்கன்னா அது P&L account extract அப்படி நம்ம சொல்லுவோம். ஏன்னா complete P&L account போட முடியாது. P&L account extract only a part. தேவைப்பட்டா. இது very first year P&L accountல 2 depreciation நீங்க என்ன பண்ணிருப்பீங்க? Final accounts படிக்கும்போது depreciation எந்த சைடுல போட்டுருப்பீங்க? P&L accountல debit சைடுல போட்டுருப்பீங்க. அது இப்படி தான் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறது நீங்க தெரிஞ்சிட்டா போதுமானது. This is for first year and you have to carry on the next P&L account. Over வருஷம் அந்த P&L accountல depreciation will appear in the debit side along with the other items also, right? So we have completed this method, direct adjustment of the assets value reduction to the asset account. On sale, asset account is reduced. So this model is over. This model we have completed. Clear? Now, come on. On depreciating, the asset is the depreciation is adjusted in the assets value. Later on, if you plan to sell the asset sold will be transferred to a new account called asset disposal account and routed through disposal. இப்போ இந்த format நீங்க பார்க்க போறீங்க. If you are going to pass the entry in this route, how can we pass? Okay, let's see here. In the earlier case, we passed the entry for this illustration. Original value 60, scrap value 5,000, number of years being the life 4. SLM method நம்ம போட்டோம், year on year depreciate பண்ணோம். Last yearல sales பண்ணீங்க, the sale price being 10,000 சொன்னோம். Third year endல. But if you plan to sell this through the asset disposal account, this entry will be totally different. how I am going to post sale of assets through asset disposal account. Okay. என்ன assets நீங்க விக்கிறீங்களோ அந்த assets asset disposal க்கு மாத்துங்க முதல்ல. Today the assets value being originally purchased for 65. Because of the 3 years usage, we have reduced the value of the assets by 15. First year, second year another 15, third year another 15. Today the book value of the asset being 20,000. I am transferring this 20,000 from asset to asset disposal account. We have to pass a transfer entry. We have to pass the transfer entry. ஒரு அக்கவுண்ட்ல இருந்து இன்னொரு அக்கவுண்ட் போகுதுன்னா transfer entry. எந்த அக்கவுண்ட்ல இருக்குன்னு பாருங்க, அது டெபிட்டா கிரெடிட்டா. transfer entry பாஸ் பண்ணும்போது எந்த அக்கவுண்ட்ல இருக்கோ அது டெபிட்டா தான் கிரெடிட் பண்ணுங்க, கிரெடிட்டா தான் டெபிட் பண்ணுங்க. எந்த அக்கவுண்ட்க்கு போச்சோ அது இன்னொரு அக்கவுண்டா மாறிடும். இப்ப asset டெபிட்ல இருக்கு, அதாவது ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணும்போது to asset 20,000 to asset 20,000. எங்க ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணி இருக்கீங்க? asset disposal account. So asset disposal account அத டெபிட் பண்ணுங்க. Value being 20,000. Now you can sell the asset disposal. And the asset disposal you can sell பண்ணலாம். So on sale the entry being bank account debit to asset disposal. Asset disposal is a temporary account, அதாவது nominal account வச்சுக்கலாம். Asset real account, the moment it is transferred to the disposal account, it becomes nominal account, because as per the going concern concept, okay, as well as asset classification, if the asset gives you benefit for more than 1 year, the real account. Asset dispose பண்ண போறோம்னா short period ல விற்க போறோம்னு அர்த்தம். So it will be now nominal account. Asset disposal account, the value being 20, and but you get only 10,000. Difference between these two is the loss on sale or loss on disposal. Yes sir, இந்த என்ட்ரி ரெண்டு என்ட்ரி கிளப் பண்ணாக்க இந்த அசெட் டிஸ்போசலே வரலையே, டெம்பரரி ஏன் பண்ணணும்? ஒரு ஆர்கனைசேஷன்ல ஒரு அசெட் இருக்கு, இனிமேல் அந்த அசெட் தேவைப்படல, ஏன் அது ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்ஸ் கால்குலேட் விக்கிற வரைக்கும். So you show so many assets where one of the assets seems to be not useful. இனிமேல் தேவைப்படல, நம்ம பிசினஸ் தேவைப்படல, விற்க போறோம். அப்ப விக்கல இன்னும், ஏன்னா கிடைக்கல, கஸ்டமர் கிடைக்கல, யாருமே அது பையர் யாருமே கிடைக்கல, சும்மா இருக்கு. அப்ப நான் உங்களுக்கு as a investor உங்களுக்கு நான் சொல்லும் போது, சார் நீங்க ஒரு 10 கோடிக்கு நம்ம கிட்ட அசெட் இருந்தாலும் அதுல 2 கோடி அசெட் நமக்கு இனிமேல் தேவைப்படாது சார், விற்க போறோம். விற்கும் போது என்ன ரேட்டு போகும் தெரியாது, ஆளுங்களே இல்ல. இன்னைக்கு ஆள் கிடைச்சிருந்தா அவர் வித்திருப்பேன், ஏன்னா கொஞ்சம் வெயிட் பண்ணி விற்கலாம்னு சொல்லி வச்சிருக்கிறேன். அதை நம்ம சொல்லணும் இல்லையா? பிசினஸுக்காக இருக்கக்கூடிய அசெட்ஸ் இந்த 10 கோடியில 8 கோடி, இன்னும் 2 கோடி நாங்க ஏற்கனவே முடிவு க்ளோஸ் பண்ண போறோம். அப்ப அது க்ளோஸ் ஆகுற வரைக்கும் அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் 2 crores அசெட்ஸ் ஃபார் த கரண்ட் யூசேஜ் 8 crores இருக்கும்போது நீங்க as a financial report reader, investors, ஏன் இவங்க 2 கோடி விற்கிறாங்க? ஓ, இந்த அசெட் தேவைப்படலையா? இந்த அசெட் அதே 2 கோடி வருமா? வந்துருந்தா உடனே வித்திருந்திருப்பாங்களே. ஸோ அப்ப அதுல லாஸ் வர வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. ஸோ we have to be cautious in investing நீங்க முடிவு எடுப்பீங்க. அதுக்காக இந்த அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் அக்கௌண்ட் டெம்பரரி கிரியேட் பண்றோம். So we are creating a temporary account to find out the real buyer and close it off, right? So this is the another model. Routed through asset disposal account. When it is routed through asset disposal account, வந்தாலே ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா இந்த அசெட்ஸ் எங்க ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிடுவீங்க? டிஸ்போசல் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிடுங்க. அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் நார்மல் அசெட் விற்கும் போது எப்படி ஜர்னல் என்ட்ரி போட்டீங்களா அதே ஜர்னல் என்ட்ரி தான். அசெட்ங்கிறது கூட அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் போட்டீங்கன்னா வேலை. Now we can prepare the post that in the ledger also. We can post that in the ledger also. Okay. Now asset account. First year la asset to bank, yeah. So to bank, I am opening the asset account here. The value being 65,000. First year end la asset nama reduce control due to usage, name the depreciation. So by depreciation 15,000. After this depreciation, the value of the asset being The value of the asset being 50,000. Balance carried on. Then by balance brought down for the next year. Sorry, to balance brought down for the next year. 50,000. Depreciate for the second year, the same, another 15,000. Second year end la value 35,000 after this year's depreciation. And to balance 35,000. And in the third year by depreciation 15,000. Now the balance value is 20, supposed to be sold. Abina in the asset, asset disposal transfer. The sale process is not done directly in asset account. So any balance left over is transferred to the new account called asset disposal. So here asset disposal account. Asset disposal. The value being 20. Now the asset is closed. No more this asset is useful for the business. Balance sheet la business asset edume illa. After disposal transfer பண்ணது என்ன ஆயிடும்? We have to open a new account called asset disposal account. Asset disposal account. You should not have any confusions here. Asset disposal account. To asset account, it is transferred from asset account, right? So 20,000. So asset lenda asset disposal transfer பண்ணிட்டோம். On sale of the asset disposal, you get collection rupees 10,000 rupees, right? So by bank 20,000 ரூபாய் நினைச்சிட்டு இருந்த assets விக்கும்போது 10,000 ரூபாய் வந்திருக்கு. இன்னொரு 10,000 ரூபாய் என்னது? Yeah, loss on disposal. Loss on disposal. So asset disposal account is closed. What happens in case of depreciation account if you want to prepare that? Depreciation account is very simple, right? Whenever it is a depreciation account, you create the depreciation, later transfer to the P&L account, debit side. So depreciation to asset 15,000, 15,000, and later it is transferred to the P&L account. By P&L account 15,000. That's all. It is over. Is that clear? The same way it is applicable for this year 2 as well as year 3 also. Every year the depreciation account shows zero balance. And if you prepare the P&L account, it's only an extract, debit sell and the year on year and the depreciation appear out. Clear? Come on. Make provision for depreciation route la pandrom. And while selling the assets after some time, we are directly adjusting that in the asset account. In the basis the sum work out panna. Is that clear? Let's see here. This amount of depreciation, original value being 60, scrap value being 5,000, life being 4 years, and SLA method of depreciation you follow pannanom. Appa depreciation and SLA method வந்து original value minus scrap value by life. Original value 65,000 and life being, sorry, scrap value being 5,000. Life of the asset being 4, so 15,000 will be the amount of depreciation provided every year. And then the asset sold for 10,000. Asset sold for 10,000 by the end of third year. So I am going to account this through accounting provisions, provision for depreciation model. So accounting of this with the provision for depreciation model. At 0th period, you are purchasing the asset for 65. Adukana journal entry. Asset account debit to bank. To bank. The value here being 65,000. The value here being 65,000. By the year end, we are depreciating. Depreciation is a loss or expenses, debiting. Depreciation upon debit. Usually two assets போடுவீங்க, but நீங்க two asset போட போறதில்ல because it is going to be routed through provision for depreciation. So two provision for depreciation. Two provision for depreciation. The year-on-year amount depreciated here being only 15,000. So 15,000 here, 15,000, 15,000. You repeat this, right? Year end the depreciation is a nominal account should be closed by transferring that to the P&L account. So the entry being P&L account debit to depreciation. P&L account debit to depreciation. Okay. And the same model you are going to follow for the year on year. This asset is used for 3 years, and after the 3 years only, this asset is going to be sold, right? So after the 3 years, we are repeating the same process. We are repeating the same process. Okay. For the year 2 and for the year 3, these two remains as it is. Am I right? This is year 2. Okay. Then this is for year 3. For year 2 also the same. For year 3 is also same. We are just repeating the journal entries. We are just repeating the journal entries. Now the asset is going to be sold. Am I right? On sale. On sale. What happens here? You get the money, bank account debit, to asset account. By the end of 3rd year, I sold this. The value realized being only 10,000. But the asset value being 65, the asset value being 65, I have not reduced even single penny due to the depreciation. Am I right? To asset account 65,000. In the provision நம்ம ஏன் கிரியேட் பண்ணியிருக்கிறோம்? இந்த assets யூஸ் பண்ண அதோட வேல்யூ லாஸ் ஆகும். அதுக்காக நான் ஒரு அமௌண்ட் எடுத்து வச்சிருக்கிறேன். This value can be used for adjusting the loss on sale of the asset. As such, now how much provision will be there? 15, 315, 45,000 rupees. In the asset 65 மதிப்புல the 10,000 வித்தால் 55 loss, அதுல இந்த 45 நான் எதுல adjust பண்ணிக்கிறேன்? Provision. Otherwise, on sale the provision is also closed. The provision is for adjusting the loss on sale, but the asset is sold. Hereafter the provision not required can be directly transferred here. So provision for depreciation. Okay, 45,000. You may ask me the question, why do I want to create that in provision account? Sir, data asset lay depreciate பண்ணிருந்திருக்கலாமே. அப்படினா depreciation is not a real expenses. It's an only imagination or calculated one. It's not real one. Profit or loss will be exactly calculated only on sale of the asset, right? So இப்போ எனக்கு தெரியும் 65,000 மதிப்புல தான் 10,000 வித்துறோம்னா 55,000 over the 3 years period loss ஆயிருக்கு. அதனால இந்த 15,000 rupees year on year நம்ம டெபிட் பண்றது உண்மையிலேயே assets ஓட லாஸா இருக்க முடியாது. ஏன் அதை போய் நம்ம அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிட்டு so we'll just create the provision by estimating there's a loss on sale. Value reduction க்கு அந்த லாஸ் அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்றதுக்காக நான் கிரியேட் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கேன். So bookல அந்த assets ஓட ஒரிஜினல் வேல்யூ எப்பவுமே அப்பியர் ஆகும். Sometimes later அந்த ஓனர் வந்து அந்த assets என்ன ரேட்டுக்கு வாங்கி இருக்காங்கன்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறார். அப்ப ஒரிஜினல் வேல்யூ bookல இருக்கும்போது சார் இன்னைக்கு என்ன மதிப்பு போகும் எவ்வளவு யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் அப்படின்னா provision for depreciation liability side இருக்கும் போய் பாருங்க. அல்லது provision for depreciation accumulate ஆயிட்டே வந்திருக்கும் அது பேலன்ஸ் ஷீட்ல assets எல்லாம் மொத்தமா போட்டு சப்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணி இன்னர் காலத்துல சப்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணி போட்டுருப்பீங்க. தேர்ட் இயர்ல போடும்போது ஒரிஜினல் வேல்யூ ஆஃப் தி assets 65, provision for depreciation 15, 15, 15, 45 accumulated. So subtracting 20 got. So owner knows at what price it is originally purchased and up to now how much we have used. So this will be more explanatory for the owners as well as investors to analyze the value of the assets, right? Normal depreciation model is advantage. It has a step ahead of the data. The extra data. So on sale, the provision is also closed up a rentable difference 10,000 rupees, named as loss on sale. Loss on sale. Okay. Yeah, of course. Now we can open the ledgers. We can open the ledgers. Okay. So, in an account open for Gaudi. I am going to open asset account, but under the provision model, the asset account remains as it is to bank 65,000 by balance 65,000 will not have any changes. Also, the same becomes opening balance and that remains as it is by balance. And third again to balance, but last year it is going to be sold. Last year it is going to be sold. Adu varaikum asset la adjust pannala, last year la assets la by bank, by provision for depreciation, loss on sale, we get 10,000 rupees, provision for the asset created up to now in totality 45, loss on sale being 10,000. So account is fully closed. Balance sheet and the asset account remains as it is without any disturbance. On sale, it will be totally removed out of the balance sheet. Now, how do we now post the provision for depreciation account, sir? Provision for depreciation. We are not creating the depreciation account, provision for depreciation. Right. In provision for depreciation account, very first year by depreciation. Now the question is that will be closed by the end of year? No, it will be balanced. To balance carried on. And by balance brought down. And second year also again depreciation 15. By the end of second year, the provision for depreciation being 30 to balance. In the third year, by balance 30. Again, I am creating the depreciation 15 for this year. In the third year, the asset disposed, then the provision for depreciation no more required. Will be transferred from provision for depreciation account to asset account. Transfer. So with that, the provision for depreciation account will be completely closed. So we have completed the provision for depreciation. What about the depreciation account, sir? The depreciation account remains as usual. Depreciation account remains as usual. Now let's see here. When I open the depreciation account, depreciation is transferred to the provision for depreciation account, right? Charged through provision for depreciation. So to provision, asset adjustment க்கு பதிலா provision ல accumulate பண்றோம். Provision for depreciation 15, and immediately it is transferred to the P&L account. So by P&L account 15,000. This will be repeated year on year. We don't have any balance for the depreciation as it is being done year on year. It's going to be transferred to provision for depreciation 15,000 by P&L account 15,000. Repeat this to provision for depreciation 15,000 by P&L account 15,000. Now, how this will appear in the balance sheet? Okay, let's see here. In case of posting these things in the P&L account as well as balance sheet, P&L account and balance sheet. Balance sheet எப்படி இருக்கும்னா முதல் ஆண்டில் asset அப்படினு சொல்லிட்டு எவ்வளவு இருக்கணும் 65,000. இதுக்கான depreciation subtract பண்ணிக்கிறேன். Provision for depreciation. It is not depreciation, provision for depreciation. Subtract பண்ணீங்கன்னா then it becomes 50,000 rupees. 3 zeros கட் பண்ணிக்கிறேன். இந்த depreciation P&L accountல debit பண்ணிடுவீங்க. இதான் first year. This is what about the first year. Okay. அதாவது 65 asset முதல் ஆண்டில் 15 provision இருக்கு அப்படினா balance 50,000. இதுக்கான depreciation 15,000 போட்டாச்சு. Second year என்ன ஆகும்? Second year also depreciation debited in the P&L account 15,000. Second year balance sheet, இது first year. Second year balance sheet எப்படி இருக்கும்? Asset எவ்வளோ? 65,000. It remains at its own original value. The original value of the asset remains undisturbed. Provision for depreciation 30,000. Now 35,000. Depreciation சொன்னால் நீங்க that subtract பண்ணிக்கலாம். Provision subtract பண்ணக்கூடாது. It's an accumulation and the account maintenance. That difference you know. Is that okay? And the third year again depreciation being 15,000 in balance sheet. Asset account being 65. Provision for depreciation being 45. Later on sold. அப்போ ஒண்ணுமே appear ஆகும். Later on sold, close பண்ணு. So இப்போ இந்த டிஃபரன்ஸ் தெரிஞ்சுங்க. டெப்ரிசியேஷன் ஒவ்வொரு வருஷமும் இருக்கக்கூடிய பேலன்சிங் ஃபிகர்ல சப்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணிட்டே வந்துருவீங்க. ஒரு 10 வருஷம் லைஃப் உள்ள அசெட்டுக்கு ஒரு 7 வருஷம் நம்ம டெப்ரிஷியேட் பண்ண பிறகு புக்ல இருக்கிற வேல்யூ என்னது depreciated value of not available what's the original value unless I go and see the documents. இதோட பில் எடுங்க பாக்குறேன்னா 7 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி பில் எங்க வச்சனே தெரியல சார்னு. So that's the problem. But if you are following this one, what happens? The original value of the asset purchased is appearing there itself. Until for the usage, is there any value or loss of it? The value loss accumulated in the name of provision for depreciation. It will have certain advantage, right? Folks, you could not understand this model. Adjusted through provision for depreciation model is over. Clear? Application. Here you see. In the assets, assets வாங்குனீங்க அதுக்கான depreciation ஒவ்வொரு வருஷமும் provision for depreciation accumulate பண்ணிட்டே வந்தீங்க. You are accumulated in provision for depreciation. Sale பண்ணும்போது அந்த assetsக்கு depreciation provision create பண்ணிருப்பீங்களே அதை நாம க்ளோஸ் பண்றோம் அப்படினு பார்த்தோம். But now the sale is routed through what? Provision for depreciation account இல்லையா? அப்ப இந்த சேல் ஜர்னல் என்ட்ரி இஸ் a disposal account. Asset disposal account மூலமா ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் மீன்ஸ் சேல் பண்றோம். அப்படினா அந்த அசெட்டை நீங்க asset disposal account நம்ம ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணியிருக்கணும் AD account. அப்படி ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணும்போது ப்ரொவிஷன் ஃபார் டெப்ரிசியேஷன் இருக்கு இல்லையா, இதுக்கான அக்யூமுலேட்டட் ப்ரொவிஷன் ஃபார் டெப்ரிசியேஷன் அதையும் அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் அக்கௌண்ட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிடணும். அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் நீங்க க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிடணும். You have to keep this idea in your mind. You have to keep this idea. Is that okay? So while selling the asset, where we have followed the asset disposal means provision for depreciation model, அப்ப asset disposal மூலமா க்ளோஸ் பண்ணும்போது என்ட்ரி எப்படி இருக்கும் இந்த illustrationல. Asset account usually debit balance on disposal, it is transferred to asset disposal account. Asset disposal account debit to asset account. To asset account. Original value of the asset here being 65,000. இந்த அசெட்டுக்காக நான் கிரியேட் பண்ணியிருந்த ப்ரொவிஷனையும் அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் அக்கௌண்ட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிருந்தோம். ப்ரொவிஷன் இஸ் இன் த கிரெடிட் சைட், should be transferred. So provision for depreciation account, provision for depreciation account to asset disposal account. Of course you can pass a single journal entry for this. இன்னைக்கு வரைக்கும் 45 year on year 15 கிரியேட் பண்ணியிருக்கீங்க, இன்னைக்கு வரைக்கும் 45,000 இருக்கு, அதை நீங்க கிரியேட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். Okay, asset disposal account debit to asset, provision for depreciation to asset disposal account. இது ரெண்டையும் மெர்ஜ் பண்ணி ஒரே என்ட்ரியா போட்டிருந்தால் asset disposal accountல 20, provision for depreciation 45 to asset 65 ன்னு இருக்கும். அப்பயும் போடலாம், தப்பில்லை. You can club these two entry. Now you are going to sell this. இந்த டிஸ்போசலை சேல் பண்ணும்போது இதே ஜர்னல் என்ட்ரி தான், ஆனா அசெட்டுக்கு பதிலா அந்த இடத்துல என்ன வரும், அசெட் டிஸ்போசல் வரும். Is that okay? Bank account debit, bank account debit, you get 10,000 only to asset disposal. Asset disposal oda value 65 minus 45, 20,000 இருக்கு. Then I get lesser, right? So the lesser வந்த amount பேரு loss on sale of disposal asset or loss on disposal. Loss on disposal. Is that clear? இதுக்கு லெட்ஜர் கிரியேட் பண்ணும்போது we have one new book, asset disposal அப்படின ஒரு லெட்ஜர் அக்கவுண்ட் கிரியேட் ஆகும், அது மூலமா போட போறோம். Let's now try that one also. Okay. Now so the journal entry for நான் இந்த இடத்துல depreciation asset account நான் ஸ்கிப் பண்றேன். only asset account and asset I mean provision for depreciation account and asset disposal account இந்த மூணு அக்கவுண்ட் ஓபன் பண்ணி காமிக்கிறேன். asset account to bank on purchase 65,000, that remains as it is, no change year after year. First year that becomes as it is, balance, no change. Second year to balance, then the opening balance remains same by balance 65,000. Third year வரும்போது to balance 65,000 by third year this asset is transferred to where, asset disposal. அப்ப இங்க இருந்து asset disposal போய்டும், asset disposal. Here after we don't have any balance, asset account is closed. Provision for depreciation account வரும்போது provision for depreciation. Okay, by depreciation you are creating 15,000 rupees. First year close பண்ணும்போது you get the same balance being the balance to balance. Second year this balance becomes the opening balance. ஒவ்வொரு வருஷமும் நம்ம கிரியேட் பண்ற depreciation, provision for depreciation accumulate ஆயிட்டே வரும். So the provision for depreciation will be increasing. We started with 15,000, now the asset is disposed, sorry, means depreciated. Second year depreciation being 15,000, Now the provision increases to 30, becomes the balance itself. Okay. To balance. The value being 30. By balance 30,000. Third year again, depreciation being 15. Now to what? To, as the last year it is disposed, the amount available in the provision for depreciation no more required, transfer to asset disposal account. So asset disposal account, entire 45,000 is transferred. Now the book of provision for depreciation account is closed. This is closed. Now we have to open one more account called asset disposal account. எப்ப asset dispose பண்றோமோ, எந்த asset dispose பண்ணமோ அந்த asset accountல இருந்து asset disposalக்கு நான் transfer பண்றேன். So to asset, the value being 65,000. Okay. அந்த assetsக்கான provision இருந்துச்சுன்னா அந்த provision நம்ம ஃபுல்லா transfer பண்ணிடுறோம். This provision by provision for depreciation, the value being 45,000. Now this asset is sold, asset disposal by bank 10,000, and because of the disposal we have loss on disposal, value being 10,000. So finally asset disposal account got tallied. Clear?